Hello everyone, and today I would like to discuss the game of chess. Specifically for this project sample, I'm discussing the chess audience and what kind of impact the game of chess has had over the last few years. The first thing I would like to discuss is the different communities that players take part in when they first interact with the game of chess. So, our first community that I would like to discuss is our casual players. These players see the game of chess more as a social activity, kind of like what they do with their friends, more so than like a real competition. So, they don't participate in any tournaments or anything, like Title Tuesday, they don't do any of that. The World Chess Championships, which are happening right now, between Gukesh and Dingley Ren. They also don't do anything like that. They're more kind of trying to get out of it. They really want to find people that share common interests with them. They want to talk. They want to have some fun. They're not really in it for the competition, and it's more informal play that it seeks to build more long-term connections between players. It's kind of the first step that a player would take when they want to go into the game of chess. They're going to start out really casual, not really know what's going on. They're going to want to be social about it. They're going to have some fun. And it usually kind of happens more in person, like at a cafe or at a library. Um, and then you have your competitive players. So sites like chess.com, um, they've allowed the game to become really globalized. Anyone in the world can play anyone in real time, so I can play someone right now if I wanted to. And it can be anything from one online game on chess.com to a professional in person tournament. So, like that World Chess Championship that I mentioned earlier, Title Tuesday, which is on chess.com. Any of those really appeal to competitive players. And if you're a competitive player, you're really pursuing that title of Grandmaster. That is the highest title that you can get in the game of chess. You're trying to get better. You're trying to learn the openings, learn the end games. You're really trying to get better so that you can attain that rank of Grandmaster. And then our third community that we have kind of built into chess is our streamers, our educators, and our content creators. So we have streamers such as Gotham Chess, such as Hikaru Nakamura. What they do is they bring the game of chess to everyone. They broadcast on Twitch, they broadcast on YouTube, and what they do is they just teach people how to play the game of chess. In Gotham Chess's case, he has a series Road to GM where he's trying to reach GM. He has a series called Guess the Elo where he analyzes his subscriber games based on the moves they play, and he guesses what rank they are. Um, and then he has openings courses where he teaches players about different openings like the Caro-Kann and the London. Um, and so he just really tries to bring chess to the masses. Same thing with Hikaru Nakamura. He kind of talks about all the tournaments that take place. He analyzes very competitive games from the top players in the world, Magnus Carlsen, Dingley Ren, himself too. Um, but all these guys want to do is bring chess to everybody and make it easily accessible. Um, and it could be anything from openings courses to even AI. How AI has kind of bettered the game of chess, given us more openings that we didn't even know about. It's taught us a lot, and that's what these guys, that's what the streamers and stuff bring us, is that kind of educational commentary about these things in chess. So chess and culture, it used to be looked at as a niche game. It used to only be played by the best players. Garry Kasparov, one of those guys that you would think of when thinking about the best players in the world. It really only used to be the World Chess Championship that people cared about. No one really cared about chess in general, really. Um, and the streamers like Magnus and, well, not Magnus, Hikaru and Gotham Chess brought it to the masses, but it wasn't until 2020 when Queen's Gambit aired on Netflix that it really changed. Queen's Gambit is number one in opening, um, but it just shows everyone not only the smarts that the top players have, but it also shows the emotional fortitude that they have to go through many days of playing against all of the other top players in the world. So you have Magnus going against Dean Lee Ren, you have Gukesh going against Hikaru Nakamura. I mean, you have Magnus going against Hikaru. Queen's Gambit shows how much they have to prepare and how much fortitude they have to have for this. And it just brought millions and millions of people into the game of chess, and chess has exploded since this show aired in 2020. It Queen's Gambit really turned chess into a game that anyone can play, not just the best players in the world. So yeah. In chess, each player controls a total of 16 pieces in the normal game. There are other game modes that you can play on different websites, but in the normal game of chess, each person controls 16 pieces. One king, one queen, two of each bishop, knight, and rook, and then 8 pawns. So there are specific ways that each piece moves. For example, the bishop can move diagonally as far as it can without hitting another piece. Um, the rook is the same way, it can move as far as it can, but unlike the bishop going diagonally, the rook goes up and down. So it goes up and down the board while the bishop goes diagonal. And they can all move backwards. Unlike in checkers, where you have to have a certain style of piece to move backwards, the bishop and the rook can go up and down no matter what. And the queen is a combination of the two. So the queen can go any direction, diagonal, or she can go diagonally, or side to side, or up and down. She's a combination of the rook and the bishop. Um, but just because these pieces can only move in a certain way, it doesn't mean that the game is without depth. There is tons of positions in the game of chess that players need to be familiar with in order to improve. Chess has these things called openings, which, when studied, they give players a major advantage over players who haven't studied. So if you play an opening and your opponent doesn't know how to respond to it, you're likely to get a winning position just in the first 5 or 10 moves. And then as the opening kind of is done and you get into the middle game, end game type section, that's when moves need to be more calculated. Because at some point you will get out of book, which means that you're pretty much not playing your opening anymore. And from this point on, your moves need to be very calculated in order to win, because it's not all about the opening. If both players don't make any bad moves in the opening, it really becomes a fight of who can make the better moves when the game goes long and when the game is at its highest peak. AI in chess really has a fascinating story when it comes to how it's affected the game over the last really 30 years or so. So, in 1997, there was a really famous match between IBM's Deep Blue, which is a chess engine, and former world champion Garry Kasparov, who, in many eyes, is one of the top chess players ever. Um, this match was really when AI started to really turn the tide and become a real factor in chess theory. Um, this engine really just performed very well against Kasparov. Um, and even today, um, chess engines such as Stockfish and AlphaZero, they are really giving players analysis, feedback, and they help prepare them for playing. So people use these chess engines to study openings and middle games and end games and better themselves so that they can improve and eventually take on other top players in the world. Um, and at a lower level like me, it helps me improve my skill at chess because it tells me where my mistakes are and where I can improve from. And then with this, chess.com actually uses AI detection to catch players cheating with chess engines. Um, and this became a really big story late 2022 with with one of the top players in the world, Hans Niemann. Um, he beat the top player in the world today, Magnus Carlsen. Um, and when he beat him, Carlsen accused Niemann of using AI during the game, which is not allowed because this was in a tournament. This was in a FIDE, which is the top chess level. It was in a FIDE sanctioned tournament where Niemann was accused of cheating. Ultimately, everyone kind of made up and it's fine now. Um, but that was a scandal that rocked the chess world um, because to have a top player accused of cheating like that, it's just not good for the game. Um, and that's what kind of happened is that everyone just kind of blew back against Neiman, and eventually the charges were dropped and everyone's fine now. But yeah.